Welcome to the Basic Bee podcast, a show for the wannabe SEO savvy service providers among us, for the coaches and consultants who dream of becoming known for their storytelling skills, not to mention the solopreneurs who straight up need to master all things social proof to increase sales. After a little reluctantly fully committing to this online world of business, I quickly realized I needed to get people to come to me. I needed to tell them I was here and how I could support them. I dove headfirst into social proof, which led me to SEO, which led me to storytelling. And now it gives me great joy to share what I've learned with other business owners so they skip the hard stuff and ease straight into sales. This podcast gives you expert insights, actionable takeaways, and casual convos with some of the online world's best and brightest experts and strategists. I think that's enough of an intro, so here we go. Welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast. I have got an amazing guest and friend and mentor with me today. I have Raechelle Embrey with me, and we're going to be talking about business energetics. We're going to explore all of what that means, make it apply to your world. It's going to be really fun. We're just going to kind of channel this one. So before I bring her on, Raechelle Embrey is an intuitive channel and energetic alchemist who is here to create soul activation and spiritual evolution for you, your business, and your animals. She uses her intuitive gifts, astrological wisdom, and energy healing in a unique way that reads, tracks, and transforms energy in the body, mind, and your business. She's here to guide, mentor, inspire, and help both you and your animals on your soul's journey of emotional, physical, and spiritual evolution. And just for funsies, I grabbed this from her website. So she is an Aquarius sun, a Libra rising like me, and Capricorn moon, and she's a 3/6 sacral generator. So Raechelle, hi, we're going to explore all of these things.
Hey, Brittany, thank you so much for having me on and inviting me into your space.
Oh, of course. I love bringing in I don't know if the right word is esoteric, but those more things that seem out there and different because they make so much sense to me and they've helped me in my life and my business. And I know the same is true for you. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, awesome. Me too.
I'm going to throw the question that I ask all of my guests, which kind of I don't know, we'll see if it applies or not, but this is the one that I ask everyone. So which do you believe is the most important for sales? SEO, storytelling, or social proof?
Wow. Okay. So I have a very different philosophy on sales. So this is where the energetics will come in, the business energetics of so much of this. So personally, I don't know. SEO is your thing. I have no idea about it because I try really hard to be more in my body, and maybe SEO is something I need to explore, but I would leave that to somebody like you as their zone of genius, right? It's not something that I'm going to be yes, I'm going to go try to figure that out, because for me, the more that I take in mentally, and I find this a lot with a lot of people, is if that's your zone of genius for somebody like you, that's just this lights me up, right? But there's other people that might be really exhausting for them. And so they might give their time away to that and their energy away to that and feel in frustration, and then not actually putting their energy towards things that actually do move the needle, right? And so I think social proof is great, but I think it's honestly overrated because I truly believe we are our own biggest proof. The path that we've walked and everything that we've been through, our transformations, what led us hey, this is where I think SEO is the bomb.com. And this is why I do this, right? It's there is a reason for that that's very personal to you. And so maybe that falls somewhat in the art of storytelling, but I feel it's really around just knowing you could have all the social proof in the world, but if you aren't the transformation behind the scenes, people feel that. So social proof, I share transformations that my clients receive and make, which I feel are all across the board. It really, honestly, it's goes into every part of their life, whether they come to me looking with their animals or for business or, for spiritual guidance, mentorship, whatever that is. It's it's all going to flow across the boards. That's such an interesting question for me to sit with as I am externally delivering this. And then I also feel like sales to me is all energy. And I feel sales is all of these things, right? All put into one thing. So the sale is, people focus on that is the conversion, but the conversions are all of these other things happening behind the scene. The conversion is one person that you've never met hopping into your free masterclass, and then they're getting to feed, in your world and experience you and your expertise. And that one new person is so lit up by it. And maybe she doesn't quite go into your world yet, but behind the scenes, she is like gobbling up everything that's happening. And then all of the sudden, 6 months later, she drops into your world and is like, I want to hop into this. And the sales to me is just like us showing up and speaking in our truth, being able to share our stories, share our personal stories, share like different opinions, our values, sharing all of these things that create connection. And ultimately, I feel like that is where the conversion or the sale all happens. And then us navigating our energy as we're like sitting back. And a lot of people are, this happens all the time. Well, nothing's converting, because we want this instant gratification. Yet the conversion is all this other stuff happening behind the scenes. The conversion is like, to give you an example, I sent an email out for an offer last week that was going on the channel. I just decided, I'm just going to send one more email out. It's the day before. I could have just said no. Well, this is what I'm going to accept, whatever. And I just did it. And somebody based off of that email that I've never heard of just bought in right there and came into the channel. And this is how I believe that like the sale can come out of nowhere. It's like you just don't know. And so anyways, she hopped into my world. By the second day, she was like, I want to do one-to-one mentorship with you with Empress. I'm all in. And I was like, okay. And she's like, here's the thing is I've been on your email list for ages and I have never received an email from you up until that Friday.
What?
That day that she bought in on the channel. And so it was just like out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I think there's so much that the universe is doing that we don't even know, that there's so much happening. And like you coming into High Priestess, I wasn't expecting that. In fact, I missed your first memo because I was out in shady, like crappy reception. And I didn't get it till the next day. And you followed up with it. And I'm so glad that you did, because I was like, oh my God, this is like where the universe is like intervening with things, and it's all about us holding our energy and solidity and just trusting in the unknown, trusting in like what we don't see without needing to have that instant validation that this is all working, and just knowing it's like you continuously showing up in all the ways that feel very aligned to you. Podcasting, speaking, if it's storytelling, storytell, if you never want your face to be on there, still get your face out there in a way that feels good to you, that you're taking inspired and aligned action every day. And then ultimately, like it will convert. It's just a lot of people do not stay in it long enough, and they don't give people buying power that women like you can lead themselves through the process. And it almost like becomes this like, I need to chase. It's not coming in. It'll feel forced. So it's like this more wounded feminine energy versus like, I can tell you all of the people that have come into my world. Yes, there was connection. There was nurture. Like we stayed in contact, and I don't repel that way. There's like nurturing. That's just who I am. I see people and I'm just like, I'm not here just to make a freaking sale. You know what I mean? Like, so when we stop looking at the human as the sale and we look at the human as the human, that's when I feel like things really start to shift. And when we look at ourselves as the human that's navigating all of this, really in our own energy is like when things get to shift for us. And then navigating that unknown just becomes so much easier. Like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I stood in the unknown and I didn't wobble. And I still sent that one email out, even though I was so tired. I didn't want to do it. And look, this resulted in, almost close to $10,000 in 3 days, So that's where the amazingness gets to come in,
Yeah. And even as you're saying that, so it's interesting for me, I'll see what I can tie together, but I've always looked at the human as the human.
Yeah.
That has been a thing for me. I hadn't really been looking at myself as the human until the last year. So even me sending that voice memo to you where I was like, here, all my cards are on the table. And you were out like chasing waterfalls in the beautiful Ozarks. And you were like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, because I just got this hit. People call it intuitive hits. People call it downloads. My podcast group isn't going to be as familiar with these words, possibly. But it's just like having this feeling or having this thought and just being like, okay, I need to act on it. And so with that voice memo, for me, it was just like, I felt this urge, like, just tell Ray what's going on. Because we have a little bit of a relationship at least built up.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll just lay all the cards out there. So I did. And that was the only thing that needed to happen. You didn't even need to respond because I told you I had like 2 people, referrals, reach out to me that same day, which were $5,000 total clients that have now come in. I think since I sent you that voice memo, $10,000 to $11,000 has come in.
Oh, that's amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. It's like totally magical. And it has not happened for me in that way at all up until now. But what you may not know is the whole last 15 months has been a freaking deep inner journey with just a bunch of crap coming up. And it's been tough and it's been hard. And just like what you said, people don't stick with it.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to sit in the crap that's coming up and the not good things and the death so that the rebirth can happen. Hey, fellow podcaster, I see you out here wanting to do more with SEO, but not even knowing where to begin or what to do. Oh, and yeah, there are loads of episodes you know you should be blogging about, but like, how? I saw so many conversations just like this happening around me, and one day I just thought, I'm a podcaster, I'm an SEO show notes writer, I should make a resource. So I did, and now you can grab the SEO podcast show note and blog post templates. You get everything you need to go from podcast idea to SEO optimized podcast show note to SEOified blog post, which means you've got 2 long-form content pieces out here marketing for you 24/7. I even included video training so you know exactly what goes where and how to incorporate SEO for your podcast ASAP. Click the link in the show notes and grab your templates today.
Yeah. And I love that because I feel like, you reaching out for support is sometimes there's a lot of like wounding when it comes to this with women seeking out support from women. And I speak to this a lot, and like the feminine energetics and how this happens is like, because so many people have been burned by mentors, burned by coaches, burned by like their sisters, as friends, whatever you want to call that, and we've come into this era where it's like, oh, we need boundaries, we need boundaries, we need boundaries. And then there's a lot of women in the space, that it's like, this is how I respond, this is how I am. And so they think they have boundaries, but what they've created is an armored heart. And so it's like, they're not allowing people to come in. They're actually not in a receiving space. And so that receiving channel gets cut off when we're not in even this receiving space, right? And so there's twofold of this, like you reaching out with something that you needed to do. And I love when it's like something that we know we need to do, but yet we're like fearing it. And maybe we hold resistance around it and we're, marinating in it, marinating in it, marinating in it. And it's like all of a sudden you do the thing and the universe is like, oh, thank God you did that. Now you just opened up your receiving channel because you cleared all that ruminating out of your mind or the thing that you know that you needed to do, even though it was edgy and you weren't sure how it was going to work out or how things were going to happen. And boom, now we're just going to give you all the leverage to make it happen. So thank you, and it's not like it always works out like that,
Right.
But it's not always a tangible result like money, but it could be an intangible result. Like all of a sudden you get the support you need in a blink of an eye and you're feeling more confident, you're feeling more connective, you're feeling more creative because that feminine can now flow. So there's a lot of intangible things that happen in that way. And then I'm not surprised you've been through so much as you have with the Libra rising, because those of us that are Libra risings, like we've had Saturn going through our 6th house for quite a while, which is, I feel like many of us are finally getting on the other side of that. And for your community that is listening that doesn't know what that means, like Saturn is like the daddy of the zodiac. Saturn is the big daddy that comes in and says, how are you being responsible for this and this and this? And it's all going to depend on what house that is expressing in your chart. But in the sky, Saturn has been moving through Brittany in my 6th house. And that is like all of your day-to-day routines. It's like, what are you committing to that is dismantling to your nervous system, to your body? Because 6th house rules nervous system. It rules the physical body down to like spine, all different things in the body. So it's like, where are you giving your power away? Where are you doing things that are just causing you stress? And you know what? If you're not going to face it, in this example, show you where it's expressing through the body, most likely in some way. A lot of Libra risings have experienced that. If not that, it could be very deep nervous system dysregulation, maybe insomnia, sleepless nights, like all kinds of things that it can, you're raising your hand. Like, yes, like
everything you're saying, I'm like, yep, head nodding.
Yeah. And so it comes in as an energy to say, you need to address this and it's going to be uncomfortable. But when you do address it, I will reward. It's like comes in and it just asks us to find the balance. So it's not saying don't do all of the things. It's just saying like, don't do the things that are really kind of like dysregulating your body and your nervous system in this case, but that's going to affect everybody different depending on where their rising sign is in their chart. So
Yeah. One thing that I've started to realize, because I work with Vika, Vika is how I even found you, Vika Bradford. She's going to be on the show at some point in the very near future. But I saw her talking with you on her podcast. One thing she brought to my attention is Ceres, which I forget. Ceres is a small planet. Is that right?
I think so, more of a
Okay.
dwarf planet, but I'm not a Ceres expert.
Okay. That Ceres has been, and I just looked it up, apparently it has one of the slowest orbits. So she's going to be like hanging out on my North Node for a minute. But me like taking care of myself, nurturing, I'm pretty sure those are the themes of Ceres, and definitely Saturn with going through my sixth house. And I've had a lot of these different podcast interviews that have come into my space where it's like sixth house with Saturn transiting that. So I've gotten to hear a lot of people talk about that. Do you know when that entered in to our sixth house ish?
It would have been like not 2023, like probably late 2022, I believe. I don't know exact, but it went into Pisces in late 2022. And this just depends on like whether somebody is doing whole sign. I'm speaking very theoretically in whole sign, but actually read Placidus for more exact, because some people might be on the front end, at a earlier degree of the Libra. And then some people might be on a later degree of the Libra. And so those later degree Libra risings could still be experiencing a lot of the physical stuff happening. And the thing is when Saturn moves to the sixth house, is it's not like life-threatening stuff typically. It's more just like a lot of awareness, but it can be scary. I have a lot of Libra rising clients, and so these can be really scary things that happen. My older sister, for example, a brain aneurysm, and it could have been really serious, but she was one of the 3% that like the brain bleed stopped on its own.
Wild.
But talk about what she had to go through emotionally in that experience, and also, what she has to face of like, health things really create a lot of worry to begin with, and instability. So it's like always finding your way back. And whether it's health or difficulty in relationships or whatever, it's always finding your way back to center in some capacity. And that's what I love to use astrology for, is like not to get into the mind, which I feel like is such a problem to begin with. It's like getting into a way of like looking at little pieces of it and how can we embody that piece? How can we take, even if it's something as a way of like identifying with a potential wound that we have, is like, oh, okay, that's why I have it. It's like, yes, but you get to transmute that into power, into leadership, into something potent in your life. So it's not like being a victim of this, or definitely, I do not go into doomsday astrology whatsoever. I have no desire. And it's like, and even like when people talk about, like I had a client the other day, can you show me how to brand through my astrology? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, no.
Nope.
You're already, and this human was already really in her head to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes we do these things as an avoidance to do the thing that we need to do, which is really just get to know ourselves and create a brand that's an extension of ourselves, versus like what your astrology chart that somebody may deem your branding path. And that's also subjective to the human teaching that and what they think based on their experience, which is not your experience or my experience or any of it, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I love to use astrology more of a lens of like returning home, and transmuting the energy and really being able to lean in and teaching women and guiding women to access their own answers from within, their own power. And then from there, it's like, we don't overthink these things like content, like sales, like money. We stop doing all of that. It doesn't come overnight, and it is a fine dance over time. And depending on where you're at in your life, like whatever you have going on, like your energy, you might have to work harder at the energy. And what happens is a lot of people are like, well, I'm in a good space. I don't need anything. I'm good. And it's like, yeah, you're good. But this is the cool thing. You're good. So you know what gets to happen now? You get to expand more, because you don't have all this stuff that you're trying to figure out and work through energetically. And so you get to lean in more. And that's where like a lot of people are like, I'm good. I don't need anything at this point. And it's like, especially in business, it's like, no, this is when you want to lean in more, because this is when the slate is clear. This is when you get to freaking create. And like, do so much. And that isn't where you're not having to constantly work through the energetics.
Yeah, that was one of the really cool things that happened. So you and I had a call about my puppy, Jack. And
Mm-hmm.
after hearing, like I said, I was listening to Vika's episode where she was talking with you about her dog, Henry, and you guys had done the reading for the two of them, for their little family. And around that time, like Jack had some stuff going on, and I just like knew, I was like, I got to talk to somebody. I need support again, which is a big thing for me to even be, one, thinking about support, two, actually going and actively asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was open to it. I was like, okay, the right person's going to like just show up. I think it was like the next day I found that podcast.
I love when the universe works like that.
Oh
It's
my
so
gosh. And especially with my connection with you, it's just been like, Ray, Ray, Ray.
yeah.
So we had the call, and there was a lot of like support and a lot of answers there, and a lot of just like this peace and ease, just having those stories running in the background. So like with Jack, one of the stories was like this big thing of guilt. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about your energy just like draining and leaking into things that it doesn't need to. That story really hasn't been on since about like a week after you and I had that call. And it's allowed me to be more present in different ways, put my energy toward different things, just trust and know that he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
And even like you're talking about, like going back to the business with energetics of that, whatever comes up and let it be what it's going to be. Like this podcast, I really wanted to do this. And I was like, all right, let's just go for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
did. And then that was another like astrology chart thing that you tied in where it was, I can't remember exactly what was going on, but you're like speaking using your voice. And I was like, well, I just started my podcast. This is amazing. This is perfect. And it was not so much of like me getting heady about it, but more going, oh, that's a really cool connection. Neat. Like that totally worked out and that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's just like trusting the intuition process. And I feel like a lot of people, they're afraid. They're afraid to reach out. They're afraid to share, and they limit themselves because it's like, well, I won't reach out and ask because what if she says no? Well, what if she does say no? But this is where we have to choose to not make it mean anything about ourselves. And maybe podcasting isn't for that person. Maybe they're in a season where they're just really resourcing their energy, and that gets to be good too. And so somebody that was really integrated in that would say, podcasting is just not my thing, but I'm so flattered that you asked, and that gets to be totally okay. But what happens is so many people make it mean something about them is like, oh, I got rejected because that's triggering something from their past coming up or whatever, when it's really just like, it means nothing about you. And these are all opportunities to like stay in our own energy field, like staying in our own power of not creating these stories. And not even this, when you're talking about Jack and the guilt and all of these things, it's like, even in relationships, like what so many women, they're so afraid to speak their truth in their relationships. They're afraid to share with their significant other the masculine, we'll just call it the masculine energy in the relationship. A lot of women are really afraid to like speak their needs, share what they need. And unfortunately, like they're like denying their truth so much. And what happens is over time, it builds resentment, it creates resentment, or they did speak their needs once and maybe this partner didn't fully hear it or receive it. Well, guess what? That's where you got to get more direct. And sometimes that is going to be bitchy, but that's where we have to kind of like rein it in and be like, it's not about like chasing, but it is around really holding true to like your desire, your emotional landscape, what is going to feel good to you in every area of your life. And you've got to advocate for yourself in that.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say to someone who's like, they're hearing these concepts for the first time and they're like, where do I even begin?
Always with yourself. And I feel like so much of this just comes down to contemplation. Most people, if this is like waking up something in them, it's like they know the area of their life. They know where this is happening. But the thing is if it's happening in one area, it's actually having a ripple effect in all the other areas. And I would say many high achieving women, which are in your world. And one of the things that I find is they all want more intimacy with life. They've really kind of gotten on the train of, I'm all business, I'm all in my mind, I'm all in my masculine in this, creation space. Some not so much hustle, but they're still in their mind. And by hustle is just like somebody that just never puts work down, but they might still be in their mind quite a bit, right? But yet they want more joy, they want more pleasure, they want to feel like sexy and confident in their body, no matter what their body looks like. They want to feel connected with life, and their business too, like the intimacy. So it's like if you're wanting that in the other areas of your life, chances are in your business, you're not feeling truly intimate with it as well. And that's when we can restrict the flow of our business, restrict the flow of our money, because money is masculine energy. And so if we're not feeling truly intimate and then we're really stuck in this masculine energy space, it's like we're blocking the flow of receiving in every which area. So it always comes down to starting with ourself and sitting in healthy contemplation, which is contemplation, not thinking to figure it out. Just like, that lands with me. And why? Like, what is that bringing up for me? And not from a place of shaming ourselves, of being mean to ourselves, or raising that inner critic that so many women already have happening in their internal world. It's just from a lens of curiosity, of contemplation. And when we look at it that way, that's when we get to like all of a sudden start making these little changes, and it's one small thing at a time, not the whole enchilada. It's like the one thing at a time that is just like one little piece of aligned and inspired action towards the way that you desire to feel with your life or in your business or whatever that is. But the problem is, and I will say this as direct, because you know me, sometimes I do come off direct. It's always in the most loving way. The problem is too many women do not do what they know that they need to do. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, we'll bring it back to you reaching out and coming into one of my containers. It's like a lot of women don't do that. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is they start to not trust themselves because they're not listening to their intuition. And also a lot of women don't prioritize getting this type of guidance, whether it's for your emotional well-being or your business or bridging the gap across the board. It's like they go to the restaurant and they deny themselves the nice meal because they're so afraid to spend the money. And I realize that sometimes people are in really deep financial crisis spaces. But oftentimes it's like continuing to deny, if you're not in that space, is like, we're talking like not people that are in poverty, right? We're talking like women probably in this container in your world and whatnot. It's like they deny themselves of that because they feel guilty. If they feel guilty giving to themselves, they are always giving to other people. So they back burner themselves, or they tell themselves, well, that's too much. And they're very stuck in the tangible results versus like the money is tangible. The offers in your world are more tangible results. You want to lose the weight, that's a tangible result, right? You want to create investment portfolios, whatever, money pathways, that's a tangible result. But none of that happens without all of the intangible things that we need to work through to create capacity, to create more receivership, to create that havingness, that way that we can actually hold. And so it's like when we don't do that, guess what? Any of that stuff could come to you, but it's not going to stick for very long. And I've seen women coming into my world, they're multiple 6-figure, 7-figure women, and they're like, I've created all this, but now it's like being stripped away, or I've created all of this and I'm so miserable. My relationship with my husband sucks. I feel like I'm never given to my children. I have no balance. It's like all this. I'm the primary breadwinner. I'm the one that has to bring in everything, right? And that's a hat that many of us wear, including myself, So we have all these different identities, right? That we're always moving through. It's so much more than the face of your business. But it's how we are leading ourselves through the daily exchanges that happen all day long that creates capacity, that creates balance, that creates the energy. And so it's like with women like that, it's like we've got to just return home to ourselves and be really willing to have a hard truth conversation with ourselves of like, where is my energy leaking out? Where am I overgiving? Where am I like people pleasing? Where am I always stuck in doubt? Where am I ruminating and not doing the things and blocking myself? Where am I avoiding doing the things that I know that I need to do? Where am I blocking intimacy, right? Where am I doing that? And that's where we just get to have those conversations with ourselves like you would your best friend, not like you would to your child, like you would to your best friend that came to you. It's not from like squashing it and you suck, oh my God,
The things that we typically do to ourselves.
Yeah. And one of the things, because I'm such an astrology nerd and I'm obsessed in a healthy way, I say that in a fun way. Like I bring it into my world through everything, is like, if you do nothing else with astrology, I tell everybody this, nothing else ever, at least take time to look at your moon sign and really nourish your moon sign, because that is the gateway to your intuition, to your knowingness, to your emotional landscape, to your inner voice speaks to your inner dialogue. And it is truly like your way to receivership. And when you learn how to nourish your moon sign in a really healthy way, that again is like somebody with a Virgo moon sign telling them to not be all like structured and, have all of like everything all organized. Or I always think like Virgo energy is probably, you might have, I don't even know what your chart is, but I could see like maybe some Virgo energy or like,
I've got a Sag moon and I have a Capricorn stellium. I think that's what people pick up on, the rigidity.
telling I'm human to just not work or not be organized or whatever. It's like, no way, that's not going to work for them.
No.
But like, how can we bring that into a balance? And I think that's where a lot of feminine energetics and a lot of people look at this stuff of like, there's just the one way of the feminine. Well, what about me with a Capricorn moon and a lot of Aquarius energy that leads with a lot of masculine?
Right.
And so it's all about finding that within ourselves and being able to like resource that. And that's why I think the power of the moon sign, because it is the divine feminine within us, is like how we can really resurrect that. And I speak so much around this because that is truly like, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your relationship, your business, your children, wherever it is, like that is the way that we get to heal that and create that balanced energy across the board. And also, it's not like a one and done thing.
Yeah.
This is constant finesse. And oh, okay, now I'm engaged. Okay, now I've got to navigate this. Oh, okay, now I'm getting married. And oh, okay, I just moved in with my partner and suddenly I'm a stepmom. And I'm also like in this business where I'm serving and supporting women all the time. And I have 6 dogs. And now one of them is a 15-and-a-half-year senior with special needs. Do you get my point? And oh, my dad
Mm-hmm.
died last year, right? So these are all the things that we're constantly navigating that we don't give enough awareness to, but it's really about creating that emotional elegance to give ourselves the space to also deal with those big changes and give ourselves time to do that and integrate even to the good,
Mm-hmm.
whilst also knowing like we can create a lot of really good things even in the human messiness of life.
Yeah, things aren't always going to be perfect, and yet there's still going to be space to make it more beautiful or to make it a little bit more easeful. And to even, like you said, just even like being open to receiving support, being open to receiving whatever that may be, love,
Mm.
kindness, a thoughtful gesture, a nice word. Like it can be the tiniest thing. I don't remember who said it or where I saw it, but if you're like so bundled up and your hands are like in fists already because you're already freaked out, you've already got enough things going on and you're helping your kids and your dogs and your family and your business and your this and your that. If something good comes your way and your fists are already balled up, you can't catch it.
Yeah.
You can't even be open to catching it. And someone said that and I was like, oh my gosh, that was the visual for me where I was like, yeah, you gotta chill, Brittany. And then, like you said, I've definitely seen you talking about the moon sign. So I definitely am excited to explore that a little bit more because I want to know what that looks like for my Sag moon.
Yeah.
And one fun thing that I've been doing is just playing around with my intuition
Yeah.
of, okay, like, when March Madness was going on, I'm living in Connecticut now. I'm now like a converted UConn fan. It's absolutely a blast to watch these teams play. So I was just having fun with like, okay, this game is happening. Who's going to be like a standout player?
Yeah.
And I would get the name or names. And sure enough, like those would be the 1 or 2 people like having the time of their life in that game. And it was like, oh, okay, where else can I apply this?
Yeah.
What's my parking spot going to be? What's the total at the grocery store? And it's like the weirdest things, but I'm having fun with it and it's happening. And like I'm seeing these things, which to your point, builds that confidence, builds that trust, and allows me to move forward just in a different frequency.
Yeah.
On frequency,
Mm-hmm.
you've got these amazing new offers. So, like you said, I'm in High Priestess, which starts later today, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, if it makes sense, I'll come back in and like add something to this podcast before it goes live about the offers. But what can you tell us about the different offers you have going on and what it looks like to work with you for frequency offers?
So I recently just did the channel, which was like a 3-day Voxer experience, which was mind blowing. And the women, none of them had been in a Voxer mentorship space. They all leaned in with complete trust. And at the end of the first day, they were like, holy shit, By the second day, they were like, this is changing my life. Like, I never thought this would happen. The thing is like, because I have a lot of spiritual gifts, a lot, I'm highly intuitive. And with the astrology and the way that I move and read from that, I also clear move energy. It's a gift. And for those of you that know human design, I'm a right angle cross of the Sphinx. And those of us with 6 lines, the 3-6, as you mentioned, 6 lines, extremely intuitive, like very visionary, like tapped in. I have a lot of Aquarius energy. This is where we get to embody all these pieces. This is power. And right angle cross of the Sphinx is like, I activate change in people. This is hilarious. I'm not surprised that like you reached out and then you had 10 grand roll in, because literally the girl that was on my podcast last week, she works with hormones, amazing, phenomenal. And she had like one session, we were talking about energetics of like dating and connecting. And she's like, I swear to God, just like this guy like walked into her life. A week later, she's like, I tried online dating and I just did it. And I just went in with my feminine, and like they've been together for over a year. She got this different job offer that doubled her income like 3 months later. And
What?
it's just something like when you have that, it activates people and being a channel. So I bring that into all my spaces, which you're going to get that. So I preface that and I share that because like I always say no topic is off the table. But the other thing is like because I'm an intuitive guide and a channel, a very open channel, like I can't predict what's even going to come into the space, right? So I
Yeah.
always say my body of work is not for people that want this like structured course, them programs and modules and things like that, because it's not how I work at all. Like it's all open, and the energy of the container, as soon as I tap in and it's like, boom, okay, this is where we're going with these women.
I love hearing you say that because even getting ready to like start with High Priestess today, I'll go and I'll get ready to journal, or I'll go and I'll get ready to meditate. And I'm like, literally nothing is coming in. I'm like, whatever's supposed to happen is what's going to happen. I'm excited.
And you'll get ignited. And I do open up space in a very intentional way that it does lead people in. So it's really awesome. But yeah, High Priestess is happening now. I'll probably offer that again, and I'll do the channel again because I love giving people like a very affordable
Mhm.
price to come in and play in my world. So if you want to get in on those, I'd say get on my email list, because that's where I put things out first. And I have one-to-one mentorship, which I call Empress, which is really for the woman that is just like, I just want to be so nourished. And in my life, in my world, in my business, and everything I do always combines what I call soul activation, which is my energy clearing, frequency attunement. You're always getting astrological like support, whether that be at the transits that you're experiencing and going through, which some can be quite difficult. Just knowing how to hold your energy as you move through these more challenging times, or maybe it's a really activating time and you're just sitting back and like, ooh, this is the time to lean in, right? And that's for like a lot of entrepreneurial support or high driven career women, anybody that's like wants to hop into that space and receive. And then the other is Reclaim Her, Empower Her, that's happening right now, which is a group immersion. It is ongoing. So I'm not a launch person. It just doesn't do well with me and my
Mhm.
nervous system. And plus, I like keeping my doors open so that when women are ready, it's like, oh, I can just hop in now. Great. They don't have to wait 6 months for something to complete. And then by then they've gone on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like, I don't move like that. I move immediately. So if I find something I like want to go in on, I just move and I'm like, I want to go into it. It's like if somebody tells me I have to wait 6 months, I'm like, I'm not going to probably be the person that waits.
Mhm.
That's just me. Some people, good. So Reclaim Her, Empower Her is all about this type of conversation. It is the foundation of your career, entrepreneurship journey, and it's about reclaiming our voice, like truly sacred soul expression, which is so much of what you need to like really activate and lead with the feminine and from an empowered way. So to me, I call it like the foundation of life, the foundation of business, of whatever that is there, because it is like energetic strategy, moving the needle forward and all different levels. Like right now, somebody doesn't have a business, but she's creating one, right?
Mhm.
She wants to lean into that. And so she's there. And so I feel like when people lean in on the energy side, this is where like launching, sales, selling, all of it is like 15% of the equation, the strategy, all of it.
Yeah.
It's just a small, minor space. It's really how we're leading ourselves through the rest of our life. And behind the scenes, that is the true foundation.
Yeah. I love it. So you've got your podcast, you hang out on Instagram. Where can the peoples find you?
Yeah, The Untamed Soul is my podcast and I'm pretty active in it. I might skip a week here and there. I'm on Instagram. I do nurture my email list quite a
Mhm.
bit and I love my email. Yeah, just get in touch. I'm just here for the conversation. I'm here for the depth. if you're curious about this, just DM me. Like, I am really easy to connect with. I'm like not going to be repelled by that. I really want more people to lean into that and more ways of leading like that, because I think it's what's needed to shift where the coaching industry has really like come from, and where it's going is a totally different space. We can't avoid it. It's Pluto and Aquarius. It's happening collectively. It's a collective shift that is happening.
Go say hi. I can definitely attest to the fact that she's like super nice and friendly, and that's why I'm here. And I've worked with you with a couple of things, and you're pretty much never getting rid of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like ever.
I love that. And if somebody wants to like book in with astrology and get a vibe and of what it's like to be in my world, I do offer astro recoding sessions. They're $333 right now. So it's a pretty good intro into my world. And I do animal communications. I really focus with a lot of end of life, senior work, animals and spirit, all of that realm of energy and stuff. So
Yeah, I know. I've got like at least 3 more sessions I need to book with you
aw.
for all of that stuff. But yeah, you're amazing. I am so grateful that you came on and shared everything. And I'm really excited to see who this resonates with and what happens. But definitely make sure to go say hi to Ray. If you're feeling that tug, trust me, I've felt that tug. Just go say hi.
Yeah, that's
Just go say hi.
it's like I always say, like, because I think it's just a spiritual connection, the way that I work with the universe is like people will feel the tug, and it's a soul tug. It's a soul tug to say go. Whether it's the animal brings the human to me, like your way, it's like the universe works for the animal. Is like go touch Ray. You know?
Great. I delivered her where she needs to go. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was really something, wasn't it? Let that really sink in and guide you toward being the answer to even more Googled questions. Thanks so much for joining me this episode. You are the reason this show exists and that it keeps growing. You know, thanks to all those follows and reviews. If you know someone who could benefit from what was shared, send it to them. We don't do shy around here. If you thought of clarifying or follow-up questions while listening, you know what to do. Say hi on Instagram. Check the show notes for all the things that were mentioned, and I'll talk to you soon, friend. Okay, you get it. You know SEO is important, but no, you're not interested in learning another skill. Who has the time? But who are you supposed to trust with the task of getting SEO to work for you? Someone who won't ghost you mid-project or treat you like a dum-dum lollipop. Someone who actually wants to empower you and your team with all things SEO. Hi, yes, it's me, Brittany, and you are the person I created the SEO packet for. You're curious, you want to understand this thing better, but like only a little bit. You don't actually want to do the doing. This way, you get the key SEO stuff super fast, and you get support throughout and beyond the project. No more letting Google gift you the wrong SEO strategy. Time to put the right words in the right places and get found online by the right people. Find all the info you need below.